Hello and welcome to the Columbia Daily Tribune's Behind the Stripes Webcast. This is sports editor Joe Walljasper along with Tribune football beat writer Dave Matter. Dave, Missouri beats Kansas State 38-28. Kind of got their offense back on track after a couple of bad games. Just your thoughts, first of all, about some of the different things we saw from them on Saturday that we hadn't seen the previous few weeks.
Well, they threw some wrinkles out there to get the running game going. You know, they broke out the pistol formation just a couple times. They brought James Franklin, the backup quarterback, in early in the game for a couple zone read options. One went really well, one not so good. They got the wide receivers involved in the running game with some jet sweeps, the kind of running plays that they've been accustomed to using with the running backs, but seemed to be a little more productive when they did it with Drell Jackson and TJ Moe, and they even let TJ Moe throw a pass downfield. That might open something up they'll use, in these next two games because it wasn't really effective when he did it. So it just looked like they got a little unconventional, more unconventional than they are usually, and just tried to find anything that works with running the ball without really dramatically changing their offense. And they got Blaine Gabbert involved in the running game again, and he ran the ball a lot at Nebraska. I think that seemed like it was more out of necessity. This time I think they went in thinking they could do it more because just to take advantage of what defenses were giving them and just leaving the middle of the field wide open. And when he gets running forward and gets a little momentum behind him, he's a really effective downhill runner because he's so big and he's pretty fast. And he's gotten pretty good at getting out of bounds, so he's not taking any big hits. So that's become kind of a weapon for them.
Yeah, I guess the one advantage when you're facing a man defense is they're following the receivers around and keeping their eye on them, so they're not peeking in the backfield. So that's going to hurt them a little bit in run defense, and nobody's really accounting for the quarterback in that defense either. So he can be a running weapon, and he was, both on design plays and just on scrambles. His touchdown was just a scramble.
Yeah.
But again, you see, like, once he's taken off, it took the defense a while to react. And then obviously had the big block by West Kemp, too. So I don't know. It's not like these were super out of the ordinary things. I mean, they ran a lot of jet sweeps back when they had Jeremy Maclin.
Right.
Obviously, the quarterback runs have been a part of their thing. But at least it was a sign that they're not maybe being so stubborn as to say, this is what we do and this is what we will continue to do. They seem like they were at least willing to try some different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I looked up and some numbers are pretty staggering here. When Missouri runs the ball 35 times or more, and this is going back to 2006 when they got a passing quarterback in Chase Daniel, they're 29-1. I mean, that's you can look at stats and you can kind of spit them any way you want, but 29-1 is 29-1, and that's pretty impressive. They're 3-0 this year when they've run the ball at least 35 times.
Well, that is kind of a chicken and the egg stat where you're passing because you're losing.
It is, but there's a lot of games too where they could have won if they would have run the ball just a little bit more, I think, too.
Mm-hmm. Defensively, they've kind of really been forced into sort of a Robin Peter to pay Paul situation with switching guys around different positions. They moved Drill Harrison from safety to linebacker. They're kind of moving Alden Smith all the way up and down the defensive line. Just been a lot of injuries over there, which has kind of taken their toll. They haven't been a dominant defense since about the first half of the season. How do you see things transpiring over there on that side of the ball, just in terms of the way they've kind of managed around those injuries?
Well, I think the Dominique Hamilton loss has probably been the biggest one at this point because the last three opponents have gotten some good yardage up the middle on Missouri, whereas that wasn't really the case at the beginning of the year. Even Kansas State, when Colin Klein, the running quarterback, when he was getting yardage, he was doing what some people kind of call that inverted veer where he's going inside instead of running the option outside, and that was right where Hamilton usually plays. And then it doesn't help when we're missing their two best middle linebackers in Luke Lambert and Will Ebner, who would usually be kind of helping clog up the middle there. So they're just making do with what they have. Andrew Wilson is out there, and I thought he played pretty well in the middle.
All year, I think.
Yeah, he really has. I think he leads the team in what they consider big hits on their chart there. And then Drell Harrison, like you mentioned, he moved up and played some outside linebacker. You didn't really notice him getting beat or getting exposed by any means, so they did a good job with him. And I think one thing that's to their advantage is early in the year they did rotate a lot of guys in and out at a lot of positions, so they're not throwing anybody out there that's really never played before. And they're through the thickest part of their schedule at least, so you think they might be able to afford to put some lesser guys in there at this point, but they're just trying to make do. And if you can hold a pretty good running K-State team to what they did, Daniel Thomas won his least effective games of the year. I think they'll take that and be happy with the results.
They go to Iowa State this week. Iowa State Needs one more win to get bowl eligible. They got surprisingly really hammered at Colorado, but they also lose their starting quarterback, Austin Arnaud, who I think was a 3-year starter, maybe a 4-year starter. Do you think this Iowa State team is capable of upsetting Missouri the way we've seen happen sometimes in the past in Ames?
Well, it could happen, definitely. I think they're a well-coached team. They're a gritty team under Paul Rhodes. They're really good at turnover margin. That's really about the only thing statistically that they are good at. They're not a very explosive running team. They're not efficient or accurate throwing the ball at all. They're in the bottom end of the national stats in a lot of things. They don't sack the quarterback. They give up a lot of sacks. So that might be in favor of Missouri's defensive line and getting a lot of pressure on Jerome Tiller, who's the quarterback now. He's played some the last couple of years, hasn't been very accurate. I think he's thrown 4 interceptions and just 1 touchdown in his time. So statistically, they don't have a lot going for him. But like you said, that can be a tough environment to play in. Missouri, good teams have gone up there and played poorly before. They're playing for their lives right now. And really, what is Missouri playing for? As far as like a tangible reward. I mean, the difference between the Alamo Bowl or the Insight Bowl. I mean, obviously they can still win the North if Nebraska absolutely collapses the next 2 weeks. But you would think that Iowa State has a lot more to gain in this one.
I was a little shocked to see Missouri as a double-digit favorite. It wasn't really a quarterback-driven team anyway. I mean, they lose their quarterback, but he wasn't like throwing the ball 50 times a game or running for 200 yards. They took Nebraska right down to the wire and then some at home. I find it a little odd that people are so enthusiastic. At least Las Vegas is so enthusiastic about Missouri's chances up there.
Iowa State's been a strange team. They competed with Nebraska like they did, and then they were absolutely blown out by Oklahoma and Utah, and really Iowa too earlier in the year. So they've been really up and down. But they're right there, right on the doorstep of being bowl eligible, despite playing I think what is considered the nation's toughest schedule.
One thing Missouri does have a chance to play for is a 10-win regular season, which I don't know about anybody else, but would have shocked me if you told me in August.
Yeah.
Just would you maybe rank this amongst Pinkel's coaching jobs at Missouri?
Well, I look at it this way. Right now, the AP All Big 12 ballots are due next week, and I've only got 2 Missouri players I'm really considering putting on the first team. That's just not a very...
Who are they?
I'd say Tim Barnes and Michael Egnew. And really, there's a few guys that might put second team, but not a lot. And I think that speaks to the job this coaching staff has done to get possibly 10 wins out of this team. They've handled the injury situation with suspensions and injuries. The defense that began August on the 2-deep depth chart has lost 42 games to injuries and suspensions so far. And then you lose your starting tailback also before the year, and that was it wasn't an injury. They kicked him off the team. So there has been some adversity. I think they've only lost 1 game that they were predicted to win. They've won 2 games that they were the underdog in, Texas A&M and Oklahoma. So they've done a good job there. And it's kind of another one of those sort of transition years where you don't really know if they can be that competitive as they have been, and here they are with the chance to go 10-2 and play in a decent bowl game. So I think it's right up there with one of the best jobs he's done.
And maybe the surprising thing to some fans, because I know before the year we looked at the schedule and we're like, every team when they played the non-conference had a terrible record last year. But it turns out a lot of those teams have done well. I think by some rankings they have the second best schedule in the nation.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean they've done it against decent teams.
Yeah. San Diego State is 11 points away from being undefeated. Took TCU to the brink last week, and Texas A&M hasn't lost since Missouri beat them down at College Station.
I always thought his best coaching job was probably. You could argue it was in 2005 when he had to bring it back after Aaron O'Neal's death, and they'd had a terrible year before. That was pretty good. 2007, I thought, even though they had a ton of talent on that team, they'd never won at a high level, and they were very consistent that year. This year, I think, for other reasons, you could almost call it his best, just because they have had to mix and match players and kind of draw upon their depth, which they got that depth from good recruiting. So, I mean, to me, this may be his best.
If they finish it out.
If they lose to Kansas.
We've gone into late stretches before and where Gary Pinkel even got a contract extension before going to Ames, and then they lost. So, yeah, they've got to finish it out.
Yeah, if they go 10-2, I would put that caveat. All right, we have viewer mail.
One viewer mail question. This kind of touches on something we sort of discussed earlier. This is from Trevor, and he wants to know, when will David Yost, commit to running the ball and utilize all 3 dynamic running backs? Well, they ran it 38 times last week. I'd say that's a fairly strong commitment to running the ball. But I don't think that they really believe that their running backs are the the only or even the best option to run the ball, and that for a while there they were giving those guys plenty of chances, at least as a group, and they really weren't getting the job done. And like we mentioned, Blaine Gabbert's an effective runner when the matchups are right, and so are those wide receivers. And TJ Moe had some nice runs the other day. Darrell Jackson scored on a run that are really the same running plays that they were given to the running backs before. So I think you have, at this point in the season, this is kind of touches on the column that you wrote the other day, you have to make do at this point in the year with what you have. And if you can think outside the box a little bit, who cares how you score, how you move the ball, as long as you just do. And sometimes I think it's a little more interesting when you get unconventional like that, and you get more players involved, and you're less predictable too.
I'm not sure what the definition of dynamic is in this case. I mean, they're fine. These running backs are fine.
Yeah.
They're not remarkable in any way. I mean, Henry Josie, I think, has a chance to be kind of a good home run threat because he's really fast. But, I mean, these running backs are sort of garden variety major conference running backs. I mean, it's not like they've got their best players on the team here that aren't getting the ball. I just would, I guess, maybe argue with the – you can argue they should use their running backs. They should just run the ball more, and that's valid. But I don't know that I feel like it's a waste of talent that these guys are so good that they're not getting a chance.
I think when you look at their skill players, I think TJ Moe's the best runner in traffic.
Yeah.
He's more elusive than any of the running backs, and he seems to break more tackles than the other guys who seem to be maybe faster, but they kind of use that speed to run right into the linebacker, right into the safety. So I think they did fine last week. If they keep that up, they'll be in good shape.
All right. Next week we will have maybe the final webcast of the regular season. We'll look back on the Iowa State game and look forward to Kansas.